Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. And in the background here, you're going to see just some highlights from SM round 20 through 24. Now, I didn't upload the full rounds and didn't kind of do highlight clips because it's something that in the past was something you just uploaded, either like 4 times the speed, or you just did like a bunch of clips with music in the background. It wasn't always the most well received because it was basically thought of, I don't need to watch this round because, obviously if someone uploads round 10, it's going to be the same as round 20, just a bit more damage. So you're going to see the same bosses from 1 through 10, through 10 through 20, and through 10 through 30, or 20 through 30. So I don't necessarily want to upload the entire rounds because I don't feel like it's going to hold your attention that long. Maybe towards the end of SM or kind of like halfway through it, I might talk about guides or tips and tricks for it. But at the moment, it's more about just kind of focusing on getting through the rounds, especially to earn that gold crown that's at the end. Now the group, you'll see them running back in the background here as well. Select few. I'm sure most of you that are on the PS side probably know this league as well. Select few has been synonymous with survival mode since the very beginning, just like myself and Legacy on the EU side. I decided I was going troll regardless because obviously I've been tanking. When did I switch? I can't remember when I first switched tanking. It's been at least, was it 4 or 5 months completing that guide series. So it was by time that I certainly went back to troll. I haven't been troll in a very long time, probably 7 or 8 months. Because after troll, I switched to healer, and then I did the 5 healer videos, and I did the 5 tank videos. So it's certainly been a while since I've done a controller video. And you'll be seeing something else that stands out as well from this video is that I'm precision and using flurry shot. No, I've not switched fully prec. I'm still might at heart. I'm still might gang. The only thing is, with survival mode, might is not practical from a battle support point of view. It's just the power requirements don't fit. Like even if I was gadgets might single target, I'd always be low on power. My mobility would be limited. I can't use stealth because it kind of bugs the instance as well. It lags the instance, similar to what it did in Darkside War Factory in the past with PS players. So you can't reliably use stealth, nor can I even be reliably close enough to use like surprise attack on it. So it's not practical for me to run. Like same thing with heat vision. If I use heat vision, yeah, like most might power sets are going to be using heat vision, but I would have to jump cancel heat vision and then roll out of it at the same time to be able to save myself from some of these lunges or to if I had to get a res. So it's just a lot more practical to be support. Kind of a funny death here. I'm not sure what happened. I'm just kind of rolling in midair on that bunker buster, but random deaths do happen in survival mode, that's for sure. Now, what I was saying, yeah, I was going on about prec. It's just not practical. Precision just has such a huge advantage in the survival mode. Being 4-man, it's just laughable. It's certainly not something I support, but what are you going to do? It's just the type of single target damage you can get using no power. As you can see, I should go on my spec as well. So basically, I picked gadgets because I believe it's going to have the best success with decoy, just in case like you need a pickup or a tank goes down. Decoy gives you the best ability there because it's basically it's a tank taunt. And it always comes in handy in SM. I was thinking about going quantum as well, but at the same time, like if somebody goes down, yeah, quantum tunneling is going to help you get the res. But at the same time, once you get the res, you can still die, or the boss could switch to you. So it's still more important to have decoy, and gadgets has some mobility for that as well. So the other type of spec because I'm still wearing full controller gear. I have controller head augments. I have precision in all 4 of my bottom augments, as well as I have 235 spec into precision. I have my controller crit spec, my DPS crit spec, and about 120 vit. So I believe that leaves me with just shy of 16,000 vit. And then prec wise, I think I'm sitting at around 22,000, 23,000 prec, something like that. Obviously, I'm wearing full troller gear. So it just gives me, I can still do some decent single target damage. As you can see, I'm still obviously learning flurry shot because I hadn't been precking forever. But survival mode obviously gives you lots of practice for that. So I think like when I was terrible at flurry shot combos, it was like 17, 18, 19. and then when I actually had a decent rotation with it, it was like 21 to like 25. So still, for someone wearing, in controller stance, wearing all controller gear, that's still decent for survival mode being a battle spec. The other main advantage is I can run the claw. This is the new claw artifact. That's that kind of gold crystal animation that you see on my back. That's the claw artifact at 160. I touched on it on one of my previous videos. So what this allows me to do is when I clip with Defib, it basically gives 7% might, 7% resto, 7% dom to the entire group for 12 seconds. And it gives the massive pot tick. So I don't need to be worrying about recharge. I don't need to be hitting defib continually. I don't have to worry about anything I normally would as a controller because I've got that 1200 pot tick going on to the entire group. So you can see throughout the group, the power levels are quite sustainable for a healer and for tanking. I haven't really run into too many issues needing a power troll spec. Because with only 4 people in survival mode, there still is a lot of emphasis on damage, so you really do need a battle spec or just a DPS in general. But the other advantage is I'm running the Amulet of Rao. The Amulet of Rao I also touched on in my previous video. That one, what it does is at 160, it turns your normal defense debuff and attack debuff from a normal 10% to 14%. And that extra 4% does make a noticeable impact, not only in the type of damage that we do, but in the survivability from the tanks and the healers because they have those extra stats, not only for their shield base multipliers, but for the healing formula as well. So it's very handy to be able to run the claw and the Amulet of Rao is a great combination. And then my third artifact is just obviously the Venomous Dispenser just for the extra prec. There are some other options you can run. I used to run the Parasite Power Harness instead of Amulet. You can certainly do that for say rounds 1 through 10. Actually, you don't even need a troller for rounds 1 through 10. It's just that I'm a staple of having one of each role at least. So at least as a controller, I can still give everyone power. I can still debuff. I can still easily get resist, stuff like that, while doing okay damage. Like if it takes an extra 3 or 4 minutes to beat the round because I'm not a DPS spec in DPS gear, then so be it. You have the extra survivability of being a troll. So that's my how I approach it. You can risk it and try to do clear round technically round 19. You don't even need technically a controller for it, but at the same point it's why run the risk? Just run a DPS, run a battle troll, and you'll be fine. Normal power trolls, I would never be a power troll spec for SM. That's just overkill. You do need to be doing some damage as well to be able to help out just in this kind of environment. There isn't any need for the controller heal debuff in this SM. There are some enemies that heal, say Ultimate Soldier with his shield, and different allies as well, say the Feral Vampire. You can put a heal debuff on them, but mostly they're mechanic based. So even if you had the heal debuff on it, it's still going to heal back slightly if you fail the mechanic. So there's not much point of it. And low rut wise, there's not really a spot for it. So basically what I'm doing in my rotation, I'm using P-Dart clip with Battle Display. That basically sets up my Venomous Dispenser and sets up the attack debuff. And then right after that, I'm using Stasis Field clip with Defibrillator. And what that does is that sets up my claw, that gives pot, and that sets up the buff to the group as well for that resto, dominance, and might. And then basically my 5th power is going to be decoy. That's going to be an absolute necessary. And then I'm running a supercharge. Sometimes if the group really doesn't need a troll supercharge, I might run Neo Venom. But instead of that, there's really not too many options. Of course, there's lots of powers that I wish I could have. I wish I could have Neo Neutralizer, another shield for pickups, or protection for myself. But it just doesn't work with this battle troll spec. There's really no other option you can run unless you don't want to run a supercharge. But then at that point, since you're running Stasis Field, which is your supercharge generator, you might as well run a shield. So worst case scenario, I could run say dash attack or something for my own personal protection, but then that doesn't really help the group at all. So I'd rather try to survive my own to be able to assist the group by running either Neo Venom for damage and for a little defense boost, but primarily the troll supercharge because Battle Drone technically is almost the strongest shield. Bastion's technically the strongest troll supercharge, but Battle Drone isn't too far behind because they didn't nerf it when they changed Battle Drone to 30 seconds. So Battle Drone, while obviously my controller stats don't really help too much with shield, but it can be kind of assisting any kind of dot or anything like that. It can help out in the situations or just kind of be an addition. So that's basically how I spec for SM. Trinket wise, it's going to vary per round. I definitely suggest one of you guys pick up the green crystal turret trinket right at the beginning. That's going to be very handy at round 10 for single target damage. Other than that, orbital supply drop, there are some rounds you can't use a supply drop on because of the mechanic. And then you basically, your other choice, breakout trinket, sidekick, backup, whatever you want to use, quad bombs. It's completely situational. But yeah, we're gonna jump back to survival mode. I guess kind of give you my like first impressions on it. It's not too bad. I didn't know what I was going to think of this 4-man SM because obviously coming from someone who did all the 8-man SMs, it certainly is a different environment having 4-man. Now, at the same time, it's a bit more pressure. Like you feel more involved with a 4-man because if you screw up or if something happens or you die or don't block a skull and then it costs in the group, it's a lot more impactful in a 4-man setup than an 8-man setup. Because if you died before, usually there was always a tank that was dedicated just for pickup duty, so it wasn't really an issue. He'd pop a shield and you'd get your res, or there's an extra healer to pop a supercharge. There's the controller, there's a DPS, so there's lots of other roles that could help you. If you made a mistake, another tank to grab back or stuff like that. In a 4-man setup, you don't really have that. There's much more of an onus on the actual players themselves to be able to survive, because you can't have one player constantly dying to a mechanic over and over again. They got to have their own personal accountability, because if you go down, somebody's got to res you, then either they're taking a tank away or the healer has to do it, so now the tanks aren't getting heals, because some rounds will require 2 tanks in the further rounds. So you don't want to do that, because then it leaves the situation where if you're dead and someone's trying to res you and they die, then that's 2 people down, and there's only 2 people that can get the reses, and the tank who has the aggro 99% of the time won't be able to get a res, because while these bosses attack not like infrequently, it comes to time where even if they get hit once, it's going to break any kind of shield they have, and they don't have an ability to like pop a psychic and get a res in time. The psychic won't taunt. So it becomes an issue that you can't really have 2 deaths. It's much harder to recover from, and certainly 3 deaths would be impossible. It'd be pretty much a group wipe, and then you have to start the round over again. And then these later rounds certainly get into longer durations because of how much damage the bosses have and so much little damage you do, because there's no 8 supply drops coming down or 8 orbital strikes for damage. It's just you 4. So these later rounds, like 20, 25 plus, are going to take a lot of time, just because you're going to need 4 support roles, because you can't afford a DPS, because it's too important to give up those 2 debuffs and then have the power over time as well, because there's no roleless buffs like there was on test server. So if you don't have a controller, you're giving up an attack debuff of 14%, you're giving up a defense debuff of 14%, so the round takes even longer because you're doing less damage. Then you're also losing your power over time, so then the other roles, the tank and the healer, don't have any support from that. You're giving up all that just to run with the DPS, so it's not really practical. It may speed up your round, but in the end it costs you, because there's going to be moments where the healer and the tank are sacrificed on power. So that's pretty much it. I thought I'd just kind of give a brief kind of discussion intro to this here. I do plan on eventually, right now we're on round 25. Once we clear that, I may upload that entire round and say round 25, 26, 27, 28, whatever we get to. Hopefully, obviously, hoping for around 30. But I probably will upload those rounds individually, maybe talk about them, just because those are obviously going to be the more difficult rounds. Like really, rounds 1 through 25 aren't really difficult in terms of like what we're used to seeing in SM. Like the level of experience of SM between new Brittany and myself is pretty exorbitant. There's multiple higher level rounds, 18, 19 rounds, round 20 with myself. There's plenty of SM rounds between us 3 players combined for pretty much the entire US server. So it comes down to the point where the actual difficult rounds are going to be 25 plus. So 25, 26, 27, and 28. That's really the only actual difficult rounds in the survival mode. That's why if you go to YouTube, you're going to see probably a litany of videos like all uploading round 20, round 19, round 18, round 21. You're going to see so many of those videos just because it's going to be much easier to get those to those rounds. That's why I thought I'd just kind of do clips and you guys can take a look, just some highlights of it. So if you certainly want to see some full footage of the later rounds, leave that in the comment section below and I'll try to accommodate you. I don't want to do necessarily the walkthroughs yet for it. I do plan on it, but survival mode's only been out like a couple of days, so I don't plan on doing walkthroughs right in the bat for that, just as a personal preference. Once the rounds are secured in our group, then of course I can kind of give walkthroughs and talk about it then. But until we actually get there and experience around myself, that I don't really want to speak to the walkthroughs yet. but that's certainly something that I do plan on talking about and uploading. So, take care guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.